Welcome back to Chapter 7 and video number 4. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this when you can look at this at your convenience, but a couple of key definitions we have here. One of them is discretionary cash flow, abbreviated DCF, and here we have EBITDA. That stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. But what Verizon is saying here is it's trying to reduce its leverage below 2.5 on the x-axis over here, right? And they feel that that threshold is going to help them with their unsecured leverage target. Okay, financial ratios. There's a whole bunch of financial ratios, and you can look at these at your discretion. But I think what you're seeing here is how those ratios are impacted by these credit ratings, or vice versa, how the credit ratings view these actual ratio values. You can see the much better ratio values at the top, and the bad ones are at the bottom. And it sort of explains how Moody's, in this case, assesses risk. Okay, so why do they matter? I think you understand that just instinctively. Are they good at predicting defaults? Wow, check this schedule out here. You can see there were no defaults here in these categories, but once you get by that BAA2 here, it starts to get worse and worse as far as companies going bankrupt. So really, you can see how important these credit ratings are in predicting defaults. Okay, time value of money. I went through that earlier in the presentation with my Excel spreadsheets, and they're reviewing this for you again, and I think you have a better feeling for how that works now that you've seen those spreadsheets. I hope you do. Would you rather receive $1 now or $1 1 year from now? Obviously, you would want the $1 now. And intuition would tell you that the $1 received now is more valuable. Well, that's how we calculate that present value. We calculate that and discount future streams of cash back to the present. Okay. And so if we look at the present value of the single amount here, the risk is going to be that you have a right to receive money now. The present value is worth more than the right to receive that same amount sometime in the future. The longer we wait, the less attractive the receipt is. The greater the interest rate, the greater the amount we will receive in the future. So if you put that together, we've got the principal, interest rate, and time value of money. More risk associated with any situation, the higher the interest rate. Some students I've taught felt that was a little bit unfair because they didn't really have all that great a credit, and they were young, and they were unhappy that they had to pay higher interest rates. But if you take the place of a banker for a minute, loaning a young student loan, you're taking a high risk, and you're going to want a higher interest rate. All right, so present value. The book does this a little bit differently than Steve's way. You're certainly welcome to look at these present value tables and see how that works. But if you have it $90.91 today, you can invest it at 10% for 1 year, and investment will grow to $100. This is the future value of an amount here. But that $90.91 is the present value of that $100 to be received in a year. That assumes a 10% interest rate. So, hence, if the interest rate is 10%, we can also calculate present value by discounting the future cash flows. That's just what I did in those Excel spreadsheets that we went through. And here are the present value tables. They've done the arithmetic for you. I believe my method is much easier to understand when you're first starting out, and I've taught that method to thousands of students, I guess, by now. That makes me sound old. But I find that you can actually now, armed with my Excel spreadsheet, you could actually calculate these present values tables. And so you can use these but we would multiply using these factors. In my factors, we divide. You can go through these on your own. I don't think this is terribly, you don't really need me to go through this for you, but I think that you're going to find that my spreadsheets are going to be a whole lot easier to understand than doing it this way. So what you would do is you would locate the present value factor and then just multiply it by the dollars that you're going to be paid or received in the future to get that present value. So here are a number of examples. I'm not going to go through these. There's a different way to calculate that, as you see with the Excel on the right. But again, I think my way is easier to understand. If you like their way, great. Use it. But I think you'll find that just to give you a background, I developed Steve's way not for academia. I got so tired of my people plowing numbers into, let's say, an Excel function that they show here, and not having any idea what it means. I think if you do it this way, you really wouldn't see how present value works very well. However, my way, you can see it very easily, I believe. And it makes it easier to explain to your senior managers, and for that matter, sometimes those senior managers are not in this country, and a picture is worth 1,000 words when trying to communicate in a foreign language. And we do the same thing for an annuity. I showed you how to do that at the very end of that first Excel spreadsheet that we did. And so annuity is an even cash flow each time, equally spaced over time. That's the definition of an annuity. And that works well for a bond. A bond has those each coupon is an equal amount of an annuity. So here they're showing you an easy one. We've got $100 in 3 years. We take the present value of each of those $300, and it comes up that the present value of that $300 is $272.32. So you can use this table 2 here for present value of an ordinary annuity. You'll notice the arithmetic up at the top of the page here. I've simplified that in my Steve's Way calculation for you. And then you can do a single multiplier. You pluck out that multiplier and you can get a interest rate for a number of periods. So this one would have been 5% for 3 years. And you see if we multiply that times the $100, we get that $272.33. Bond valuation, I'm not going to go through that again because I think we did a pretty credible job of going through that at the beginning. you'll see why I did it at the beginning now. I think if you didn't have a feeling for present value, it would have been very difficult to understand how these bonds are valued. So again, here's our bonds, $100,000, 8% bond, and the prevailing interest rate was 8% at the time, so it's going to sell at par for $100,000. But if the prevailing interest rate is 10% instead of 8%, we are going to sell that at a discount because we were not competitive with a 10% market at this point in time. And in this case, 93,537. Now you can do it the book way, which is what's shown here on the slide, or you can run it through my little Steve's way calculation in a matter of 2 seconds. You can have the right answer. And my way is more accurate because it doesn't have the rounding. This is rounded to 5 decimal points, whereas Excel uses 15 or something like that. And the premium's done the same way. And if you have a financial calculator, you can also use these abbreviations to input your numbers. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I gave up my financial calculator about 20 years ago when I started using Lotus and then later Excel. And it shows you how to do that. Now, Excel also has some functions, again, for present value and future value. But I would tell you, unless you really know how to use those functions, you can get confused. Certainly, I had a number of my people that did, and they were all college graduates from good schools and should have known better, but didn't, which was very disappointing to me because then I had to do it. So, pricing of the bond, we can do the same thing. Pricing the bond, future values, same kind of thing, using the present value tables, and calculate the future value of an annuity the same way using table 4, appendix A in the book gives you that. And if you want to do it that way, it's fine. Again, I think it's easier. By the time I find my book and get it in my hands, I could have calculated it easier in Excel. But this way will work. All right, so that's chapter 7. A lot of sophisticated concepts in that, but I think some very important ones, especially time value of money. So when we return, we will move on to chapter 8. Until that time, bye for now.